Alright, hello everybody out there in YouTube land. Today we are going to be putting together the yutrax TX159 4-wheel ATV trailer. So the tools you will need are a hammer, a ratchet, a 13mm socket and a 10mm socket, a 13 and a 10mm wrench, a flathead screwdriver, a grease gun with a grease fitting so you can get it onto the wheels and pump grease into it. And then what I also found to make it a lot easier is a nut and bolt gauge, because in the instructions it just tells you that you use a M8 or a M6 bolt at this size, and none of them are labeled. They just all come in a bag. So that's going to make it quite helpful. So first step is to secure the sides of the front trailer frame to the side of the rear trailer frame using two M6 50mm bolts. I've already figured out which ones are the M6 and the M8s. So we'll measure this. Goes to the 5, which is 5 centimeters or 50mm. Gotta love the metric system. So those go into, oh, I lost a bolt. Where is it going? There it is. Go into the sides. One here and one down below. So I am going to have to move all my tools and my nice little setup here to get the other one in. So I'm going to pause the video and get all the tools off and get it in a position that I can get to the bolt on the other side. And then I will continue after I get that bolt on the other side in. So I will be right back. Alright, we're back. I got the other side bolt in. You can see it down there. I got this one in. It does say in the instructions, do not tighten it. Just kind of get it on there and give one turn of the wrench. Keep everything loose till the end. Right there, important assembly tip. Do not tighten any nuts and bolts combinations completely until all parts are assembled together. Finger tighten plus one turn of a wrench only. This will temporarily hold the lock nut on the bolt while helping alignment of all parts. After all parts are assembled together, all nuts and bolt combinations must be completely tightened. Do initially assemble steps with the trailer frame parts oriented upside down. This will aid in the assembly. Alright, so our next step is to secure the bottom of the front trailer frame 1 to the bottom of the rear trailer frame 2 using two M6 65mm bolts, an MX steel washer, and M6 lock nut. So we'll take this. I already know this is M6. We'll measure it out here. 65. There are two of them. So we'll come over here. I'm going to pause the video so I can lay this down. Alright, we're back. We have our M6 washers over here, so we need two of them. And then I gotta get the nut off the end of this bolt. Alright, so there's two holes, one right there and one right there. Slip it through. Bam, put on the washer. Just kind of tighten the nut up slightly. Alright, Do the same on the other side. Make that nice and easy. And then tighten up the nut. So I'm going to pause the video since I can't use both wrenches and the ratchet while videotaping. So I'm going to pause and I will continue once I get these bolts slightly tightened up. Alright, I got those on, bolts on, lightly tightened. So our next step is to attach the top of the axle mounting plate to the trailer frame assembly with 4 M6 40mm bolts. See figure 2. And we have Trini coming to help us. So these are the axle mounting plates. And put them on with the yutrax facing outward. There are a group of 4 M60 bolts, or M6 bolts, so I'm guessing those are the 60mm, or what was it, 40mm, wasn't it? Yeah, 40mm. So 40mm bolts. And then you put it down there like that. And you put 2 bolts on the bottom with a washer on the back, and then tighten them up. This I'm not going to be able to do one-handed, so because I have to lift the trailer up to get underneath to tighten the bolt. So I'm going to pause the video again. Sorry about all the pauses, but I don't have any tripods or anything. I'll have to get those for later videos in our YouTube career. So, alright, I'm going to pause the video and I'll continue once I have both sides on. Alright, our next step is to insert rear tongue tube 7 into the U bracket on the axle, tube 5, and secure with 1 M8 70mm bolt, a washer, and a M8 lock nut. See figure 3. So, it's this tube into this with 1 M8, what was it, 70mm bolt. So we'll go over here. Probably the one that's just a single bolt. And we will check it out. And it is 70mm. Get an M8 washer. There we go. See if I can get this where we can see the assembly. Nope. Definitely need to get a tripod. So, bolt in there and get it tightened up. I will continue after because I'm sure you guys don't want to see me fumbling around. You just want to see it tightened and how to assemble it. So I'll pause and I'll continue after I get this bolt in. Alright, we got that on. So the next step is to secure the latch tube assembly to the top of the rear tongue tube with 2 M8 100mm bolts. So that's this step right there. So we'll go find our 200mm bolts. Guessing it is these ones. 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 100mm. So then we gotta grab 2 washers. For some reason it is not wanting to autofocus. There we go. go. M8 bolts, two of our washers, two of them. Up here, it goes above it, so not into it. Alright, so I'm going to pause the video again. I'll continue after I get those two bolts in, and we will go to the next step. Alright, we got those two bolts on. Next step is to insert the latch tube assembly and front tongue tube into the connector pocket and secure with two M8 60mm bolts. There's this step. That's what it looks like. There's two bolts. And we'll come over here and I will pause the video again and I'll be right back. Alright, the next step is to attach the tongue assembly to the frame assembly by inserting the short end of the two axle spindles through the axle mounting plates and threading into the axle tube. Thread each spindle until snug and then loosen until holes in the axle tubes and spindles are aligned. Secure the two axle spindles to the axle tube using two M6 45mm bolts, which is this step right here. So we'll go over here. I'm not even sure where the axle spindles are. Oh, here they are. Alright. So, these are the two axle spindles. This is the hole they're talking about lining up. And then there's a hole in there once you get it screwed in. So, I'm going to have to flip this over. It goes forward facing that way, and then I'll insert the axle spindles. So I'm going to pause the video and I'll continue once I get that part done. Alright, we're back. We got the tongue assembly all flipped over and set. Now here's the axle, and you slip it through this metal plate and then it screws into here and you screw until the holes line up. Come on, focus. There we go. More. There we go. Perfectly aligned. And you put a 45mm bolt through there. So we'll come over here. I believe it's these two. 45. Perfect. Drop that in there. Come up from the other side, so if the bolt falls off while you're driving around, the nut, or so if the nut falls off while you're driving around, the bolt will still stay in there. Okay, we got that side. Come on over to the other side here. Slip it through the plate. And then I'm gonna have to do get it up in there. Screw, screw, screw. One more. Okay, and you put your bolt in there, which I'm not sure where I put it. Alright, it's in my pocket. Alright, I'll get that bolt in there. I'm going to pause the video and then I'll continue along. Alright, our next step is to slide the tracking beams onto the axle spindles. The axles of the tracking beam should be facing outward. So we'll get our tracking axle over here. There it is. Take the plastic off because of the grease fittings. I believe they pre-greased it somewhat, but yeah, once we get it on, we'll use the grease fitting and really fill it up. Alright, so you gotta take off this big nut here to get it on. And then you just slide it in and on. Take the plastic off. I don't know if in the background you can hear the neighbors shooting. Alright, there's one side. Come take the bolt off this side. Here's the next tracking axle. Get that all taken apart. Move the trailer over a little. Remember to get the plastic off. And then slide it on. Alright, we got that step done. Next step, slide the tracking beam braces over the axle spindles. 6. Secure the trailer frame and axle mounting plate 4 with 4 M6 50mm bolts, washers, and lock nuts. The grease fittings on the tracking beams must be facing away from the braces for access. Good to know. So, alright, come get our beam braces here. And, see how they... Oh, I see. Let's go that way so you can get access to the grease fitting. If you put it on the other way, that's not gonna happen. So you line it up down here, and then you use the 2 M6 bolts, which we will go get over bolt collection, the last 4, so no need to measure. Over here, get some washers. And I'm going to pause the video, but what we're going to be doing is putting the 2 bolts right in there, one on each side. So, and then that holds the axle on. So, alright, I'm going to pause the video and we will continue after I get both sides braces on. Alright, we got that done. Our next step is to secure the tracking beams and tracking beam braces to the assembly with two 20mm castle nuts, 20mm steel washer, and tighten the castle nut till snug, and then back off slightly to allow free movement of the tracking beams and align the cotter pins. So that would be 20mm bolt. Screw it on till it's snug. There, and then put a cotter pin in. Oh, I forgot the washer too. So let me grab one of them. Snug, and it still moves. Then you put your cotter pin in and you bend it. So next we'll come over to the other side. Put on our washer. That one I'm going to use a 20mm wrench and tighten a little, so I'm going to pause the video while I grab one. Or I'll just come over here and grab one. 22, 19, I know I have a 20 somewhere. Let me pause the video while I find it. Alright, I found it. Tightened it up. Put in our cotter pin. And I'll bend that shortly. I believe our next step is actually put on the tires, so we're almost done. They gave you a lot of extra washers, unless I was supposed to use two some places. Do remember, you want to grease everything before you use it. It's not all greased. Alright, so next step is you must now tighten all nuts and bolt assemblies. Be sure not to over tighten or crush tubing when tightening. So I'm gonna pause the video and tighten it all up, because I'm sure you guys don't want to see that. Once I get everything tightened up, we'll continue along. Alright, we're back. I got everything tightened. Next step is to put on the tires and put on the back and all of that. So when you put the tires on, you want to make sure you have the grease fitting facing outward. So I'm going to get one of these down. I'll show you. You want to make sure you have the grease fitting outward. Alright, so let's get one of these tires on. Take off that nut, and then you put the tire on, put a washer, put the nut back on, and then a cotter pin. So I'm going to put all the tires on. I'm going to pause the video, I'll put all the tires on, and then we'll go from there. Alright, we got the wheels on. Last step is to insert the rear of it. There we go. And then put on all the rails. Apparently that is not the back rail. So put the rails on and that, and then grease the grease fittings. I'm going to pause while I do that, and then I'll continue once it's all together. Alright, we are back. Everything is put together. I greased the tires. Greasy. So that is how to assemble the yutrax X4 ATV trailer. So I hope that helped. If you guys liked my assembly video, please subscribe, and there'll be more assembly reviews and how to do stuff around the homestead video as we learn and go along.